Who do you want as the Bengals' next defensive coordinator under Zac Taylor? Let me know in the comments section. Going for over 200 comments on this video, trying to make this video the most commented on video of the month for us here at Bengals Breakdown. So get down in the comment section and let me know who you want to be the next Bengals defensive coordinator. Good evening, Bengals fans. Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, going to be spending some more time talking about the vacated Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator position at this point. Going to be giving you guys the top 8 Bengals DC candidates going into this 2025 offseason and obviously into the season as well. A lot of these guys have been linked by media members. A couple of these guys have just been kind of guys that have floated into my mind that we are going to discuss on today's show. I have ranked them from least likely to most likely to get hired as we sit here on January 14th. We're going to keep doing these DC videos until Zac Taylor does indeed make a decision. And speaking of Zac Taylor, he did say that this is 100% his decision to make. So obviously, if it doesn't work out, all of that blame is going to go on Zac Taylor. But I'm happy he's taking ownership, and he is the guy that is going to decide who the Bengals defensive coordinator will be in 2025. Let's get into these 8 candidates here on tonight's show. First up is Christian Parker, currently spending time with the Philadelphia Eagles as their secondary coach. And he's viewed as kind of an up-and-coming star in the National Football League in the coaching ranks. He, believe it or not, is only 32 years of age, does not have any coordinator experience, but a lot of people around the league feel like it is only a matter of time before he gets an opportunity as a coordinator. And Cincinnati certainly could be a potential fit. He has worked with some of Taylor's close friends. They've got a lot of respect for him. Kind of why he's been linked to Cincinnati. He's also well versed in the Vic Fangio system, a system, by the way, that has given the Bengals absolute fits, maybe a system that they would try to adapt some tendencies for their defense going forward. Of course, Fangio is the defensive coordinator for the Eagles right now, as well as Parker worked under Fangio when he was in Denver as well, so very familiar with that system. Christian Parker is the first guy here on today's show. Next up is Wink Martindale. Kind of made some news today in regards to Wink Martindale being linked to this Cincinnati Bengals job. Here's what Tom Pelissero of NFL Network tweeted out earlier this morning. He said, longtime NFL defensive coordinator Wink Martindale is scheduled to interview with the Falcons today and the Colts on Wednesday, per sources. The Bengals also could have interest in Martindale, who is college football's highest paid coordinator at Michigan. One to watch. Now, just to be very clear, he didn't say that Martindale was going to have an interview with Cincinnati for sure, just said that he is in the mix. Of course, Martindale is the current defensive coordinator at Michigan. Of note, he was not the DC when they won the national title. He got there in 2024 as his first season, but he coached the Ravens from 2012 to 2021, was the coordinator for about that last half of that stretch, was a position coach prior to that. Funny story, I actually was at a Bengals game. I believe it was the Ryan Finley year, the year before the Bengals selected Joe Burrow in the NFL draft. I was sitting down at the game with a buddy, and there was Ravens fans behind us. And they were nice Ravens fans, believe it or not. And it actually was Wink Martindale's family, and they actually were a very nice family, believe it or not. Contrary to what some people would think of Wink Martindale, especially because of the famous shot he took at Joe Burrow a couple of seasons ago when they played Green Bay, when Baltimore played Green Bay. Of course, talking about Aaron Rodgers, and then he started talking about Joe Burrow and said, "Yeah, we're not ready to give him a gold jacket just yet." What did Burrow do? He went out and threw for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and just absolutely embarrassed Wink Martindale's defense on that afternoon. So I would be shocked if they went with Wink Martindale, but certainly noteworthy that he was linked to this position earlier today. Leads us to the pinned comment of today's video. Would you hire Wink Martindale? Type Y for yes or N for no for me in the comment section of today's video. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Next up here is Mike Zimmer. Zimmer, of course, spent a lot of time in Cincinnati. Currently the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. They're moving on from Mike McCarthy, so it could be just a matter of time before Mike Zimmer is kind of gone in Dallas. by the time this video comes out, he very well could be gone. Things are kind of just hanging in the balance as far as that situation goes. Also, a very good probability that he retires as well, as he's getting up there in age. As I mentioned, Bengals DC from 08 to 13. Certainly the best Bengals defenses of my life, maybe even in franchise history as well. He is still revered by the front office and still has property in Northern Kentucky and spends most of his offseason there as well, which certainly is very, very noteworthy. Potential for him to reunite with the Bengals here in Cincinnati. Certainly a name to keep an eye on if Zac Taylor is going to go with more of an older candidate. Next up here, Al Golden. Of course, the defensive coordinator of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at this point. He was the Bengals linebackers coach from 2020 to 2021, so not a super long tenure, obviously, only a couple of years. But what happened in 2021, Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl, and believe it or not, your linebackers that season were a strength of that Super Bowl team. Both Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson were in under rookie contracts at that point. And Golden did a phenomenal job of developing them, making that a strength of their defense. Certainly a familiar face around the building. Certainly has a lot of respect for Zac Taylor. We'll see if anything happens as far as an interview goes after Notre Dame's season gets wrapped up on Monday night. We'll continue with our latter four candidates here in a moment. But first, want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, as today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Really encourage you guys to potentially check out some NFL postseason games, courtesy of our friends over at Game Time. I always say the divisional round is the best weekend of professional football of the season. Should have some really competitive games. Really encourage you to go over to Game Time and potentially find a way to one of those games. My two favorite features on Game Time: the seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. Secondly, the event cancellation protection. If you're going to a concert, the artist cancels on you, that's totally fine. Game Time's not going to hose you. They're going to make sure you get your money back. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, now let's talk about Aubrey Pleasant. And I'm just going to go out there and say this is who I would hire as the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator as of right now. Pleasant, of course, is spending time right now in Los Angeles with Sean McVay. Look, the Super Bowl loss to the Rams hurts, but I'd take a look at McVay's staff, and basically anybody on that staff I would love to have here in Cincinnati, and I think Pleasant certainly fits that mold. He went to the Super Bowl with Zac Taylor when Taylor was on the staff, when, of course, they lost to Tom Brady and the Patriots. And Zac Taylor has spoken to Aubrey Pleasant about jobs in Cincinnati before, even all the way back to the initial hiring process in 2019. Pleasant is a young guy, 38 years of age, has a lot of energy, and like I said, works with Shula there on the defensive side of the ball, is a pass game coordinator for the Rams defensively. Anybody that is under that Sean McVay tree certainly has the trust of me, and probably has the trust of Zac Taylor as well, because of all of the time that he spent in Cincinnati, or Los Angeles, I should say. And I just really think that Aubrey Pleasant is a guy that should be at the top of people's lists, especially at the top of Cincinnati's list. And if I had to pick one guy right now that I want to be the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator next year, I'm going to pick Aubrey Pleasant. Another opportunity for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Do you agree with me? Would you pick Aubrey Pleasant for the Bengals defensive coordinator position? Let me know in the comments. Type 1 for yes or 0 for no. All right, I had a whole show dedicated towards Matt Eberflus. Obviously, the Bengals have not interviewed Matt Eberflus yet officially. Part of me wonders if they've done a bunch more interviews that just haven't been reported. Typically, all these interviews with coordinators get reported across the league, but the Bengals are very hush-hush, and they might have just been pulling this off without it getting leaked out. But apparently, Matt Eberflus has not been in contact, or has not interviewed, with the Cincinnati Bengals, but has been linked to that job. We've talked about it in the past here on Bengals Breakdown. Really had a successful tenure in Dallas as a position coach. Helped with the development of DeMarcus Ware, Sean Lee, really great linebackers. Went to Indianapolis, did well again as a coordinator, then had an opportunity to go to Chicago, which was a dumpster fire as a head coach. Look at these 3 horrible seasons here. Clock management really struggled in that capacity. Struggled on the offensive side of the ball, hiring assistants, personnel stuff, things like that, but would not have to do that as the defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, just because you're a bad head coach does not mean you are a bad coordinator. I think Matt Eberflus would be a good hire for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think a lot of well-respected people that cover this team want Matt Eberflus to be the DC of Cincinnati. Wouldn't be my top pick, but I don't think the Bengals fans should freak out if, in fact, they do take Matt Eberflus. Number one priority is going to be that player development. Bengals are always going to spend their money on offense and have youthful defenses. It is up to that DC to develop those guys and make sure they are at least a top 20 defense so you can go out there and win some football games. Last 2 candidates here are going to be the guys that the Bengals have officially interviewed that have been reported. DeMarcus Covington, of course, the DC with the New England Patriots last season. He has cut his teeth in New England. He's been there really throughout his entire NFL career, starting under Coach Bill Belichick. Has been a part of a lot of success and kind of caught the tail end of that Tom Brady run in New England. Ultimately was promoted to DC. I don't know. Vrabel has not made any announcements yet as far as what his staff is going to look like. So we'll see if Covington even has the opportunity to come back to New England or if he for sure is moving on. If I was him, I would like to, hang on to that regime and still be a part of it. But Vrabel very well might want to come in and bring in his own DC. No reason for Covington to kind of, take a back step and go back to a position coach with the Patriots, considering he was a DC in 2024. Zac Taylor has interviewed him for sure. He's a younger guy, certainly viewed as a top candidate for the Cincinnati Bengals. Last up is Patrick Graham. This was the first guy that was reported that Cincinnati has interviewed for this position. Most recently, the DC of the Las Vegas Raiders. Has a lot of respect around the league. Isn't a young guy. Has been around the block a little bit and has had some success. He, too, cut his teeth in New England under Bill Belichick. A lot of times, look, Bill Belichick's coaching tree really isn't very impressive, right? But I do like that approach that they have on the defensive side of the ball, and I view Patrick Graham as, a solid candidate. I would not be celebrating if the Bengals hired him, but, that is a telltale sign that was the first guy that Zac Taylor wanted to interview. I would consider him one of the finalists for this position, no doubt. So here is my list of 8 right now. Again, rank them from least likely to get hired to most likely to get hired for the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, that 1 and 2 spot, I put them there because they're the only 2 guys that have been reported that have interviewed for the position at this point. Eberflus has been a hot name as well. Aubrey Pleasant is my personal favorite. That's why I got him at that 4 spot. Would also love Al Golden as well. Potential reunion with Mike Zimmer. Wink Martindale was thrown into the mix today. And Christian Parker, an up-and-coming coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. That is my list. We will see if it ends up being any of these 8 guys or, if anyone else gets added into the mix. Again, we'll have a few of these videos, I'm sure, before Zac Taylor makes his final decision. For those videos and all kinds of Bengals offseason coverage, make sure you hit that sub button if you have not done so already. Approaching 16,000 subscribers. Hopefully we can hit that mark on tonight's video. So help me out, help yourself out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV.